community up north inspired by Ireland's capital city. That's next on Columbus Neighborhoods.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by
At American Electric Power, we've been proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media for many years and strong supporters of our headquarters city here in Columbus, both downtown and in neighborhoods like yours.
State Auto Insurance Companies, serving customers and communities for nearly a century. Today, a technology and transformation company. Risk takers, creators, innovators. A company defined not by its history, but by its people. State Auto. The Columbus Foundation. Smart philanthropy for a smart city. ColumbusFoundation.org. Bailey Cavalieri. Your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. CODA. Keeps our community moving forward. Falgren Mortine Marketing and Communications. Think wider. Ohio Health focuses on you and your family with a mission to improve the health of our communities. And by contributions from these and other Columbus area families who support WOSU. Thank you.
On this episode, we're staying in one spot, Dublin, Ohio, to learn a little bit about its history and personality. We're at the historic Fletcher Kaufman Homestead, a typical farmhouse in the early days.
Now here's a tidbit for you. In the 1880s, Dublin was known as a rough frontier town. And according to the Dublin Historical Society, travelers were wise to have a rock in each hand to protect themselves.
Really? Our Dublin?
Our Dublin. They fought with rival gangs from Worthington and Columbus.
Okay, wow. Well, I'm glad times have changed. Now Dublin is a great place to raise a family and a stable place for big business.
Many people associate Dublin, Ohio as having an Irish background or Irish heritage, when actually the truth is that Dublin was settled by Germans. Many German families came to Dublin. The Carrs, the Horches, the Ashbaws, Lepperts. John Sells is the one who bought what we think of as a historic district. The Sells family, they searched for land in this area. They probably went all up and down the Scioto River. As they did that, they would encounter surveyors who recommended this particular site. It's the highest point on the Scioto River, so it was not going to flood, and it had particularly good natural resources, timber, rock, and fields to build a small settlement. Between then and 1810, John Sells decided to stay right there, and in his piece of land, he decided he was going to set up a village. He needed a surveyor to help him do that. He knew John Shields. John Shields was well known. So they sketched this out, and the story is, you laid it out, you get to name it, he told John Shields. And John Shields says, well, if I have the honor to name the town, I'm going to name it after my hometown because of the green valleys and the blue waters, and it reminds me of my hometown of Dublin, Ireland. And that's how Dublin got its name.
The area is well established enough that when the Ohio General Assembly is looking for a site for a new state capital other than Chillicothe, where the capital was, to be located somewhere in central Ohio, the Sells Plantations comes to be one of those areas that the legislature will consider. They considered other places as well, places like Circleville and Delaware and Newark, Franklinton, which was the small settlement at the forks of the Scioto, and so on. A committee established by the legislature to find that new home actually selected the Sells Plantations as the place where they'd want the capital. And then the Ohio General Assembly, as it is wont to do, calmly ignored the recommendations of its committee and established the capital at the forks of the Scioto.
Now the colorful story is, which I like much better, is that it was a poker game, and the last two contenders were Franklinton and Dublin. And John Sells and there's a Dr. Smith from Franklinton. Dr. Smith is the one who calls the hand, And John Sells smiles because he has 3 kings, a 10 and a 2, and lays down his hand, thinking, I've got this, we are the capital of Ohio. And Dr. Smith lays down 3 aces and walks away with the legitimate capital of Ohio. So we came in second, but maybe that's not so bad. Dublin was on the Granville, the Greenville stagecoach line, what we think today of as Route 33 or 161.
In the house that sits right on the southeast corner of the square today, that was one of the very first stagecoach stops there was in Dublin.
You could get a meal there and stay overnight. If you were lucky, you got a bed. If you didn't get there in time, you could still sleep on the floor, but at least you were inside and dry.
Dublin is not exactly as it emerges initially one of the most peaceful places in the world. It is a place with a lot of taverns, a lot of bars, and a lot of rough folks.
Dublin actually was declared one of the toughest towns there was in the area. You better be careful when you came to Dublin to be prepared that you might end up with a fight with someone.
Partly maybe because it was a quarry town. The town transitioned from agriculture into quarrying. People were working in those quarries. It was a dangerous job. To work that off, they went to the bars and they got into fights.
I understand it was kind of a rough town in the early days, probably like the Old West a little bit. You know, they didn't really know how to control themselves or something when they got drunk, and so they would just do whatever they wanted to do.
There was a limerick or a sort of a rhyme that people used to sing here that said, Dublin, Dublin, city of beautiful roses, gouged out eyes and bloody noses. If it weren't for your solid rock foundation, you'd be gone to hell and damnation. And they used to sing that in the bars. That was Dublin's reputation. In the 1850s, it was so bad that the village council voted themselves dry for a number of years, then relaxed that after a while.
My great-grandfather was a blacksmith, and the village then was a service community to the area of farmers. If they needed supplies or blacksmith repairs, they would come to Dublin.
It was a thriving town because we could support the farmers. Anything that's going to help a horse stay in business. So harness makers, saddle makers, livery stables. Then anybody who's going to help a farmer stay in business. As people making clothing, hats, work shoes, work clothes. It wasn't a rich town, it wasn't a wealthy town, but the town took care of one another.
Being a place where farmers came for business, they of course came by horse and buggy, and the horses needed water. For many years, people just had to carry their water up from the spring. So sometime in the 1880s, they drilled a well. And to make it accessible, they put it in the middle of the intersection of Bridge and High. It was used for many years until around 1925. Horses were smart enough not to run into it, but people driving cars would run into it.
They finally built a cement encampment around it, but then the trucks and buses would hit it.
The state said you have to take the pump out.
That town pump sort of symbolized a gathering spot for the village. And a few years ago, the city was persuaded to install some public art at that corner. It's there now. It's called Daily Chores. It's a young lady at the pump with a bucket, and her little brother is helping her pump. People that shop around the historic district can see that at that corner where the well used to be.
The first 150 years, we didn't do anything. It just didn't grow.
Dublin was a community of like 200 people. You know, we're not talking about a lot of people. There were 3 grocery stores when I was growing up. Then we had service stations. There used to be a drugstore that stood there. There was a beauty salon in Dublin. And then Shriver's owned the building on the southwest corner, which was Shriver's Confectionery.
And then, of course, we had a post office. Just the things that they would have in a rural community.
And then across the river, on the opposite side, on Riverside Drive, was a Dublin nightclub. And this was developed by Deloise family, came from Italy. And it started out as a barbecue restaurant, and then they turned it into the Dublin nightclub.
If they had a banquet of any kind, that's where they held it. And of course, a lot of our friends lived on farms, and they didn't get to come to town very often, only on Saturday. The school activities, though, and church activities are what brought them.
Between the school and church, that was the social life in Dublin. And the river.
The beauty part about the river was everyone used it for whatever purpose. Swimming was one of the major things that we did during the summer months.
We had to be very careful because the boys, when they would swim down there, they didn't wear any bathing suits, and they washed down there. That's where they took their baths, I think, so we had to be very careful. We did swim, though, when the boys would let us, at the Old Rock.
That was our swimming hole. There were a lot of things that went on there besides just swimming, but it was a place to play.
So the river has always played a great role in the activity of people that lived in the community.
In the 50s and 60s, Dublin was very much like it had been for 100 years. It was still a population of about 400 people. What changed it was the development of the interstate system, and particularly the outer belt around Columbus.
They began to talk about the outer belt, and there was a lot of discussion whether or not they would use the 33. And the people that were here, they were very vocal. Many of them did, let's stay the way we are. Let's stay small. Well, as it worked out, Ashland Oil came, bought the land on France Road.
Locating that headquarters here with good jobs, high-educated scientists helped our schools. They worked with our township to influence ODOT to put in an exit and ramp at 270. The other thing was happening was Jack Nicklaus, who had recently won the PGA at Augusta, was thinking, wouldn't it be great to have a tournament of the similar kind up and near his hometown in Upper Arlington. So he was searching for a place and found one in what we now call Muirfield. So he had selected that in the late 60s and was starting to develop that into a golf resort and golf course. As Dublin continued to develop, other companies came in. Wendy's moved from over their first location on Henderson Road over to Dublin. Cardinal Health is located here. OCLC has been a long time resident in Dublin. So a lot of things came together in a very short time to put us on a trajectory that put us to where we are today.
When I was in school, our colors were always crimson and white, not emerald and white. We never even considered Dublin being Irish. The name is, I guess.
But then we started naming streets, and all of a sudden, everything was Irish.
The whole Irish thing does give Dublin a sense of place and a sense of identity.
I used to work the Irish Festival, and I remember, I think the first one, that we had some musical groups that came, and they were talking to us and saying, now, how many Irish do you have here? We didn't think we had any. I say, in August of every year, there's 3 days, we're all Irish.
The Irish Festival itself and its growth has become a great way to bring the community together. It gives us a touchstone. Even though we're not Irish, we're still Dublin, Ohio. And for those 3 days, it's a heck of a party.
One of the most beloved personalities to come out of Dublin was Dave Thomas. I had the pleasure of working with him to find forever homes for foster children. He was a big-hearted man, and Wendy's was one of the first corporations that found a home in Dublin.
If you think about Dave Thomas, and he was looking for a location for our headquarters, he was looking for a community with old-fashioned values, a community that served family. Dublin is that community.
We moved here to this campus in Dublin, Ohio in 1976. And it's really a proud part of our history. Everything with Wendy's, of course, starts with Dave Thomas, our founder.
No, we were founded by a great individual that had a purpose in life to create joy and opportunity, and that's special.
The first Wendy's was on Broad Street in downtown Columbus.
Well, Dave Thomas really wanted to open up a restaurant that served food that was so good that he would be proud to serve it as a family. And the reason our fresh never frozen beef patties are square is because he didn't want to cut corners. So we don't cut corners in anything we do about food on our menu.
He loved milkshakes, and he wanted a milkshake that was so thick you wouldn't be able to drink it with a straw, you'd have to eat it with a spoon. Wendy's and Dave Thomas really invented the idea of a drive-thru. What I think is so funny about it is that most of the menu board is dedicated to directions on how to use the drive-thru because it was such a new concept.
Wendy's corporate headquarters in Dublin is also home to the Culinary Innovation Team, where I got a chance to build a Baconator.
Today, I'm going to knight you as an honorary member of the Wendy's Culinary Innovation Team.
Let's Baconator.
All right.
Okay, your menu. Every item on that menu starts in this test kitchen.
So this is where all the magic happens. We're constantly testing new ideas here. Next thing you're going to do is put mayonnaise on the crown of the bun. And then you have the ketchup. And you're just going to swipe that on in a V motion. And then you're going to put a slice of cheese down right on the bun.
Put cheese right there?
Yep. And now the fresh never frozen North American beef. And you're going to put one more slice of cheese on there. And then you're going to put 3 strips of our thick cut Applewood smoked bacon. And then you're going to put one more slice of fresh never frozen beef right on top. And then we're going to hit it with 3 more strips of Applewood smoked bacon.
Okay.
And that's a Wendy's Baconator prepared.
Okay, I passed Wendy's University.
You did.
I have my degree in Baconator.
And then once we have a concept that we're really excited about, we test it with customers to make sure they're as excited as we are. And a lot of that testing happens right here in this innovation kitchen.
It certainly is a big bun. It's a very...
So 1984 was when Clara Peller and the Where's the Beef campaign came to market.
Where's the beef?
And I think that was so much a part of the Wendy's personality and has been for a long time, which is just poking a little bit of fun at the conventional way of doing things.
Hey, where's the beef?
When Dave Thomas became the face of the Wendy's TV commercials, and that campaign was, still is one of the longest running in television history. And he used his celebrity in such a powerful way. He really used his celebrity not just to sell hamburgers and to promote Wendy's, but also to promote his, the cause that was so close to his heart, which is foster care adoption. And so in many ways, I think of the Dave Thomas celebrity as both a force for change within our business and our industry, but it also really created a lot of great social change in terms of children that are in foster care waiting to be adopted.
The truth is that no other citizen in the United States today or ever has done as much as a private citizen to promote the cause of adoption is Dave Thomas, and we are very grateful to him.
About 6,100 kids have found forever families, and we're so proud of that, and it's just such a great opportunity that helps us connect us back to Dave.
And I think what he left for our company, and really what he left for this community in Ohio, was a dedication to hard work. Will you believe that other people should be treated with respect? Do you believe in giving something back to your communities? And so it's very easy to do here in Ohio because that's such a fabric of this community as well. But I think it's really perfect that this is where our headquarters is.
Every year, the nation comes to the Memorial Tournament right here in Dublin, and it seems that every year the course gets hit with rain.
It sure does. Now, locals say that's the curse of Chief Leatherlips. But is it real, or is that just an urban legend?
Well, we sent producer Brent Davis to get the whole story.
I sure hope he took an umbrella.
Right, or at least a poncho.
Jim Leatherlips, it's an unusual name, but it's a real story and a real person, is that right?
It is, it is. He lived the long hair, and in fact, according to my family, he would come down here many times with some of the Wyandottes into this spring, and they would sit on the hillside and tell stories.
Was he a leader in the Wyandotte?
He was a Wyandotte chief. In fact, he signed the Greenville Treaty in 1795.
What do we know about the execution?
6 Indians that came here to put Leatherlips on trial which was a mock trial. They wanted to get rid of him. As you remember, Tecumseh was forming his coalition. And when Tecumseh was forming his coalition, his brother sometimes would meddle, Tenskwatawa, the prophet. And so he decided to end Leatherlip's life, and maybe they could get the Wyandots who were under Leatherlips here to join his confederation. Well, it backfired. And after the execution, then the Wyandots actually fought against Tecumseh in the War of 1812.
The Sells family was here. They were some of the original settlers of Dublin, and their descendants went on to have the Sells Circus, right?
5 Sells brothers were actually at the execution of Leatherlips. So between the 5 Sells brothers, and there was an Elias Lewis from Worthington and a Peter Millington from downriver, so there was at least 7 witnesses. I think if Leatherlips would have let them know that this is false, I'm not a witch doctor, and I don't want to die, I think there'd been a hand-to-hand combat that day. I believe the Sells boys would have broke in, and I really think that Leatherlips, he didn't want any interference because he knew that Tecumseh, or at least his brother, the prophet, would have brought Indians over here and tried to wipe out Sells settlement. I will always believe that Leatherlips was more of a hero than what we give him credit to be, because he stopped the Sells boys from fighting.
Do we know where the name Leatherlips came from?
Well, they think it came from the fact that he never told a lie. The settlers trusted him. And as Elias Lewis once said years after this execution, the hardest thing I ever did was see that good man put to death.
And your great-grandfather was that custodian of the grave, and the grave has been in the family's care since then.
Yes, Joseph Thompson died in 1862, but he's the one who started to protect the grave of Leatherlips. After the execution, the Indians left, and then Joseph later, he backfilled all of that with rocks. And those rocks then covered the grave of Leatherlips.
And that brings us to the curse of Leatherlips. What is it and how did it start?
After Leatherlips was executed and the grave was taken care of, we also had a son of Joseph named Samuel. And so they formed a club in Columbus, and it was called the Wyandotte Club. It was a group of gentlemen that loved history. This membership club got so excited they voted to put the monument, which is up there now. Now this was when it was still nothing more than just a pile of rocks in the woods. They decided to clean the area up, and when they did, they accidentally uncovered the remains of Leatherlips. They had to lower those remains now down to a proper depth. That's when the rumors started about the curse.
Well, it's a fascinating story, and it seems like the more we learn about Leatherlips, the more there is to find out. So thanks for sharing your family's story with us.
So that's the history of the real-life figure named Leatherlips. According to local urban legend, his curse is the reason there always seems to be a dark cloud hanging over the memorial tournament. And by that, I mean rain. To find out how much, if any, of this is true, I met with Ben Gelber, who's examined the evidence.
Well, Ben, we know you know about meteorology and the weather, but it turns out you know about Leatherlips too. You've studied this character.
Yeah, because so often questions come up, is there anything to the lore of Leatherlips and rain in Muirfield? So I went back and investigated the climate records to see if we could tie in number of rainy days with tournament days. May and early June have the greatest number of rainy days. It rains a little bit more than 60% of the time.
So as you looked at the data before and after the 1970s when the tournament starts, what kind of change did you see? Was there any?
One thing that we have looked at is the change in the amount of moisture in the air. We're clearly having more rainy days and more days with heavy rain, say compared to the 1930s through the 1960s. We've gotten progressively wetter. As the climate has warmed, the oceans have warmed, there's more available moisture in the air, conducive to showers and storms, which happens to coincide with the initiation of the tournament.
So you're telling me there was actually less humidity in the good old days?
For the most part, yes. And we use dew points as a measure of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere, and also the number of days with southerly breezes coming off the Gulf of Mexico. That has increased significantly in the past 25 years. So we're having even more rainy days during our rainiest time of the year traditionally.
Ben, so in your opinion, yes or no, is there a curse?
As a meteorologist, I do not believe there is a curse, partly because of the history doesn't quite match up. The area that he hunted is on the opposite side of the river from Muirfield. And secondly, yes, it's unusual to have that many rainy days and heavy rainfall days, but there's a climate signal and the time of year that all allow this to fall within the realm of natural variability. Or bad luck.
Curses foiled again.
Curses foiled again, I love it.
Thanks for being with us.
And remember, you can catch all of our episodes on columbusneighborhoods.org.
Plus, see our stories on the WOSU mobile app. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
We'll see you back here next week on Columbus Neighborhoods.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by
At American Electric Power, we've been proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media for many years and strong supporters of our headquarters city here in Columbus, both downtown and in neighborhoods like yours.
State Auto Insurance Companies, serving customers and communities for nearly a century. Today, a technology and transformation company. Risk takers, creators, innovators. A company defined not by its history, but by its people. State Auto. The Columbus Foundation. Smart philanthropy for a smart city. ColumbusFoundation.org. Bailey Cavalieri. Your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. CODA. Keeps our community moving forward. Falgren Moortime Marketing and Communications. Think wider. Ohio Health focuses on you and your family with a mission to improve the health of our communities. And by contributions from these and other Columbus area families who support WOSU. Thank you.